Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our ClaritySoft weekly webinar. I'm Susan Arnold, Implementation Specialist here at ClaritySoft, and today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. Our topic for today is a guide for system administrators. This particular webinar is designed for those of you who have been given the job of becoming the system administrator in your ClaritySoft, where you are the one responsible for setting up the database, maintaining the setup of the database, making changes to it, and all of the administrative types of things that go along with your ClaritySoft database and usage. So we're going to cover those topics today. In order to see the things that we're going to work with in the settings menu, you do need to be a system administrator. If you're not a system administrator, that's okay, because you may learn some things that you can take back to your system administrator and make some suggestions on how to improve your database setup or add some new things to it. All right. So what we'll be covering, the basic administrator setup, we're going to be working in the settings menu is where we're going to be for the whole session, and looking at the different options under the settings menu, describe those options, how they apply to the database, and then using them. Users and profiles, this is for setting up your users and setting up the access profiles for each user. You have control over that. Adding custom fields, a big part of what you do when you're setting up your database. You decide upon the custom fields that you want in each of the modules and add those custom fields so that you can enter that data, which will allow you to search on things like a territory or a status or product interest or industry type, those kinds of things. And then you can import into those fields as well if you're bringing data in from another CRM perhaps, or spreadsheets that you've been maintaining. So you always want to check those sources before you create your custom fields to make sure that you're adding the things that you need so that your data can come into ClaritySoft. And then the customizations, basically the customizations goes along with all the settings, setting up the different types of things you want in your settings. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And while I'm making the switch over to ClaritySoft, for those of you, I think most of you have been in the meetings before, so there is a Q&A panel that you may type questions into while I'm talking, and then I will answer those questions as we go along. All right. So I'm in my database, and as I said, we are going to live in the settings menu today. So this is in the upper right corner, this gear-shaped button, and when you click on it, it will take you to the settings menu. And then over here on the left are all the different options. If you are not an admin user, you will see this My Settings section down to here. You may not see Audit Log. Some of the options that are in the settings menu you may not see because of the level of ClaritySoft that you have. So don't worry about that so much unless you decide, wow, I really need to have that. Then you can talk to your account rep and perhaps upgrade to the next level of your ClaritySoft. But for those that are non-admin users, you will see only this first group. Perhaps you might see this products and pricing down here, but you won't see most of these here, okay? So when you first go into your settings, no matter which type of user you are, it's going to land under this My Settings section and on Preferences. So this is one of the first things that you want to set up when you log in as a user yourself, okay? You're first of all going to set what time zone you're in, the date format that you want. We have 3 options for the date format, and it will transpose the dates according to the format you select. you set the default calendar view of your ClaritySoft calendar. You can pick which one you want. And then when you go to the calendar module, it will then show it in what option you have selected. And then the default module is what module, when you log into ClaritySoft, do you want it to go to? For example, for me, I work in the projects module most of the time. So now I have my default module set to projects in my ClaritySoft database so that I'm not landing in accounts and then having to click on projects. Some people go directly to activities. Some people go directly to opportunities. This is an individual control. So each person, when that person logs in for the first time, can go in and set which module they prefer. And then the time zone, you'll notice here, if you click in it, there is no drop down for a selection of different time zones. So what you have to do if you're in a different time zone is you drag across the text and then you start typing. And as you type, it's now pulling up all of the time zones anywhere around the world, and then you pick which one you're in. So I want all the admin users to know this because this gets confusing sometimes because there isn't a drop down here. So that's one big star to remember how to do, okay? And then you basically can type in any time zone. If you've got salespeople in all kinds of different locations, you can put in any time zone because this applies to the person, my settings, okay? So each user can do this. Now, the other things under here, I'm going to go kind of in an order of importance on these. The other thing that the user wants to do when the user first logs in is go to this My Information and fill in this information. So they put in the first and last name, phone number, email address, fill in the street address and all that, and then save it. This then will appear later in the database when the person creates a quote template. It will automatically pull this data in, or a sales invoice template. So the data, it's important to fill this in so that then it then flows into the rest of the database and they never have to type it again, okay? So you just click save and save that. And then email settings, I'll come back to those and actually view them a little bit further down. The other one that I'm going to hit on, this is not terribly important, but for some people it is. We have the ability to change color schemes, and if you saw my database, I have this purple color scheme selected. So each user can have a different color in their database. And then another important one is each user does have the ability to change a password. So if they want to, if you give them a generic password to log in with, they immediately can come in, go to change password, type in the password you gave them, type the new password they want, confirm it, and change. Then when they log out, log back in, they'll come in with their new password. Now, something that goes along with that I want everyone to know, because this is a new change in the database, you go down here to System Settings, which is where the admin user will be able to go. And under General, under System Settings, you will now see Password Rules. This was just added in the last couple of weeks. And you, as the admin person, can choose what is the minimum password length you want, how many characters. Currently, it's 5. Currently, there are no any other requirements for special characters or numbers in our passwords. It's pretty loosely configured where you can type pretty much anything you want. But if you want to make it more restricted for your people, then you can say you must include a symbol, you must include a number, you must include one lowercase or an uppercase. So if you turn all these things on, then their password would have to contain at least one of those options and then fit the length also. So that's available now for those of you that might want to add more restricted passwords to your database. So it's under settings, system settings, general, to make the changes. And so when a person changes their password, it would have to fit the new rules. If they've got an old password, it'll stay in effect until they go to change it. Then it'll have to fit the new rules if you change the rules. So here, this is general, this is system-wide, where you can put in the company name, the time zone where the corporate office is located, and then the date format that you want throughout the database globally. Your financial year, you set the month that your fiscal year starts, if it's something other than January. And then ClaritySoft knows when it's calculating quarters, how to calculate the quarters. So I know some people, especially if you're in the education realm, your fiscal year starts July 1st. And so you can set your fiscal year to start in July, and then it would know your first quarter is July, August, September. Whereas those that start in January, that's going to be your third quarter. So by setting that, you tell the system how to calculate your quarters for pipeline reports and any other reports that you're doing. And then the currency symbol you can type in if it's something other than the $sign. This allow global search. When you first come here, this is going to be set to no, all right? I think in most cases, you probably want to set it to yes. And what the global search is, in the accounts, contacts, and leads modules, under the spyglass button, there is global search as an option if you turn it on. And when you choose global search, you get to select what modules you want to search in. And there's checkboxes, and I'll show it to you. There's a checkbox for leads, a checkbox for accounts, and a checkbox for contacts. And what that then allows you to do is start typing in the name of either a company or a contact person, and it will search across all three modules to find a match and pull up any matches, and then it will tell you this person is in the contacts module. This person is in the leads module, and they may have slightly different names, but you can look then and see. So it allows you to do that searching if you're trying to add maybe a new record in and you just want to check whether the record's already in the database or not. You can use the global search. The other way it's very useful is if you have your database set up where your users are viewing only their own records. They're set to an individual access profile, so when they log in, they don't see all the records in the database, they only see their own. Then the global search is very useful because if one of those users gets a new lead, perhaps, they can use the global search to search and see if that company or that person is already in the database but belongs to someone else and they can't see the record. The global search allows them to see it and then also to see who the user is that owns that record if that record is already in the database. So that's very helpful if you're using individual access profiles. So that one I would recommend turning on. Then dashboard performance, this is for the dashboards or charts module. Are they in real time, meaning that as soon as somebody makes a change in the database and saves it, your chart will update itself in real time, so you're always looking at accurate numbers, or is it cached? This will help maybe optimize your performance. This might slow things down, so you can decide on that one. It's set to real time, but only if you really start to notice a huge slowdown would you want to change it. Okay, so that's your system settings there. Then system notifications, you do not need to do anything with this. These are when ClaritySoft is set to give you a notification, a reminder about an activity, send out if you're using the support module, an email notification from the support module. These are already set up to send out automatically. So you don't need to change these unless for some reason you would like to, where they're going from you instead of from us. So that's okay. So I would say don't mess with this unless you talk to tech support so that you do it the correct way if you want to make changes. Another question that often comes up during Quick Start is module names. Sometimes people would like to change the names of the modules. For example, they might like to change accounts to companies or organizations or something like that. So they want to change the actual name of the module. We do give you the ability to do this, but, and I'll change this just so you see. So I can type it and then apply it, okay? And most of the things in settings, when you make changes to them, you do need to log out. That's just a good rule of thumb to follow. Just log out and log back in. And you'll see when I go in that my module name is now changed to companies. However, this column heading is not changed. And when you go into the record, this does not say company. So it isn't universal. It says it up here as the name of the module, but it's not universal throughout the database. So sometimes changing that becomes more confusing rather than less confusing for your team in using it, because they get mixed up as to what they're looking at. So you can think about it if you want to do it, but I've had people change it and then immediately go back and change it back. So give it a try if you really want to do it. Oops. Oh, I thought it was putting the word back in there for me. It's just telling me what to do. Okay, so if I go back and then when I log out again, it'll go back. So that's something you can think about. All right, logo. Most of you have probably discovered that you can put your logo into ClaritySoft and it shows up at the top of the navigation panel. So you can add your company logo. And basically you can choose a file. You click on here, choose your logo file. We recommend that it's in this size, okay? Because it has to fit in a very tiny rectangle. And when you get to the rectangle, I don't have a file ready to choose. Yeah, I don't really have a file ready to choose here. But when you do that and open the file, you'll see a little red rectangle in the middle of the screen, and you're going to hold the shift key down while you squeeze your logo into that red rectangle, and then you'll click Update Logo, and it will place it. So that, again, you maybe have already done, and you're good, but you can do that. If you want to go back to the ClaritySoft one, then you can click here. This here allows you to put a link out to your web page so that when you click on the logo, it will take you out to your web page or wherever you want it to go. Okay, so that's the purpose of that one. Then I'm going to go back out here. In a contact record, when you type the name of a person, come down here. In the contact field, So when you're typing this, well, let me just do Clayton Green. Matters. A lot of people ask me the question or say, well, this is all going in the same field. And then when I tell them when they import, they have to split it into first and last name, there's confusion. Well, it's not going into the same field. When you click on the contact here, it opens a little window and you can see that ClaritySoft is splitting your name into all the parts. So Clayton went into the first name and Green went into the last name. The space is the separator or the delimiter, okay? And then you can also add, if you need to, back in the settings where we'll return, a drop-down list of prefixes like Mr., Ms., Mrs., Doctor, Professor, or whatever you need. You create a drop-down list that you then can select from, okay? And the same thing for suffix lists. You may create a suffix list. Some of you work in areas, especially the medical or the engineering area, where people have different suffixes that need to be added to their names, and so you can make a drop-down list. If I type, he had a middle initial of O, and I click Save, notice how it enters it in here. So it's split, but it displays as if it were all in one field. This is just to save screen space and make it easier for you, because it's certainly a lot easier to just type Clayton O, whoops, Green, and move on rather than have to go to 3 or 4 separate fields to do that. So if you need to select a prefix and you have them, then you would open the little window and do it, okay? This also helps sometimes too on import. People have hyphenated last names, and so you have to fix that before you bring it in, otherwise it'll get split improperly coming in. So that is there. But I wanted you to see how that works so that you understand that. And then when we go back to settings, you'll understand why you would put in your prefixes and suffixes here. So if I wanted to add a list, I can type in Mr. and save it. And I can type in so you get the idea. I can put in any prefix that I want. And then that becomes part of a drop-down list. Now, suffixes are the same way, where you can put in, you know, the second, the third, junior, senior, or professional suffixes. So you can type them. Now, one thing I do, this is important to know. You can only select one. This is a single select drop-down list. And I've seen it where there are people that have multiple degrees next to their name, especially in the engineering field. So what you would have to do is create an option that has the multiple suffixes, which could get a bit tedious to do, but that's how you have to do it. We're working towards getting the development team to make this a multi-select drop-down, but we haven't gotten there yet. So that should come in the future, but that will add those. Then over here, lead sources. Lead sources are a universal field throughout the database, so that's why they're under system settings, because they go everywhere. There's a lead source field in all the modules. So this is where you would come to add your different lead sources, how people come to you. And you can put whatever you want in here. There will be ones already in here when you first open your database, but then you can add to it at any point in time. Now, I don't even remember what's here. So do we have, we don't have a referral. So if I wanted to type referral, then I can add that. It'll get added to the list. And with any of these lists like this, once you add one, you can click on it to highlight it and use your up arrows to put it in the order where you want it. Okay, so you've got up and down to set it in the order in which you want it. All right. You can also click this row action button and it says move up, move down, but it's easier to do this way. Because if I do it this way, I have to click again and move down. So the other way is simpler. All right. So that's your lead sources. Those then will appear as a drop down. And people may select from those. These can be updated at any time. So if you get a new lead source, like you do some kind of new advertising through some other source, definitely come in and add it because that's how you want to track your leads. All right. Okay. So now let me come down here to users and access. So a lot of these are general things to set up globally in the database first. And then your users will be added in. And under users and access, you have access profiles. I'm going to jump there first because before you add your users, you want to decide, well, what can they see in the database when they log in? Can they see all records? In which case, then you can use the all access profile because that lets them see everything in the database. Or do you want to restrict them to see only their own records? And the owner field in ClaritySoft is what controls this. So whatever the owner field says, then that's what records they would be able to see. So only those. And then the manager access profile can be assigned to one of the users that's maybe a sales manager. And then people can report to that manager, and the manager sees downward to those records for the people that report to him or her, but the people below cannot see upward. So that's the manager one. Team you're not going to use. That's for offline. It's really a legacy profile, so you don't want to do this. Terminated, the only time you want to use terminated is if someone does leave the company and you want to deny them further access to your ClaritySoft database. You will come in, go to their user record, set their profile to terminated, and also set them to deactivate, and you'll see that in a minute. And then they will no longer be able to log into ClaritySoft, and you will free up a license so that when a new user comes on board, you can add that new user. So that's there, and then you can create custom modules because you might want different settings for different sets of people. I'm going to go into this really briefly because I just did a webinar last week on access profiles. So if you want to get into more detail on it, go find that on our web, our tutorials in our YouTube, and then you can view the full thing. So I'm just briefly going over these things here. But with your access profiles, you say, well, what records can they see? And then what modules can they see when the person logs in? Can they create new records? Can they edit their own, delete their own? Mostly probably turn this off. Edit shared, delete shared. Shared means that it's another user's record that has been shared so they can view it. And so they either can edit it or not. And deleting, you probably want to control. That's why you probably want to create some custom access profiles so that you as the admin person have all these rights to do all these things, but then you might have another all type of access profile that then allows people to only do certain things. And then you have features that you can control what the people can do. And then report permissions in the reports module. And then sales stage access has to do with opportunities. You can have for different profiles the ability to see different sales stages. You might have an inside team and an outside team, and you might want different stages used by the two different teams. So that's there. So you want to go through that, and just basically I want you to know that you can control this and you can create custom ones. And like I said, we have another video that's a whole hour long, goes into all the details. All right. The other thing, then once you've set your profiles, you would add your users. And then when you open a user record, you will add the user's information, first and last name, job title, phone are not important. That's just in here for your information. But you definitely want their email address. The login name, the username is which name they're going to use to log in with. So you can set it. A lot of times I usually suggest you just set it to whatever the beginning of their email is. If it's, like Bill M or B Miller, something like that. So it's familiar to them. And then, as I said before, you can give them a generic password to log in with, and then they can immediately go in and set up their own password. And then here's the reports too. If you select a person as the manager, so you want to add the manager first as a user, so you can select from the drop-down list. And then here, we're using the profile of all, but you get to pick any of the ones that you've created. Time zone. Now this one, and I just brought this up today, this is a drop-down list. So for anybody in the US, this works. Outside the US, you talk to your implementation specialist or tech support, and they can help you figure that one out. And then these user types can be defined. And then these feed into filters and filters for reports, okay? Groups have replaced that team access profile. Again, I go into this in great detail in that other webinar, but a group can be created if you can create a name of a group, and then you can assign people to a group, and their profile would actually be individual. So you'd set them with an individual profile first, then you can add them to a group, and when they're a member of a group, then they can see each other's records. So if you had things broken into territories and people within, let's say, the Northeast territory, there were 2 people, you could set them into a group, and then they can see each other's records, but not anyone else's. And then you can have the sales manager see all. So a lot of ways you can do this. A lot of it is to just sit down and think about how you want to break it up. And then you also can have an individual view of another user, all right? This makes a person an admin user, so that would be for you. You would definitely want to keep that in your record. And here's that deactivate. So if I needed to terminate Bill here, I would go to terminated, and then I would scroll down and click in the deactivate checkbox. And when I save that, he would no longer be able to log into ClaritySoft. And that does come up, okay? So there's your user record. You can, if you have a lot of users, you don't have to manually type them in. You can go to this import button here, and then you can download a template, a spreadsheet template, fill in the information in the spreadsheet, and then you can come right here to upload the users, choose the file, and then once you've selected the file, click the import button and it would import your users. So this would be if you've got, 15, 20, 25 users. If you've got 4 or 5, you can probably just type them in, be just as fast. But that is there, available to do, okay? All right, user email settings. This is important. These will be the outgoing email settings that you use for either your Gmail or your Outlook, depending on what you're using. I'm going to get to your question here, Needy. Hold on one second. So when they log in, or when you get all the users in here, either you or your IT person, can come here to the users and access user email settings, because you will see a drop-down list of all your users. So you can switch from one user to the next and put in the settings. So basically, you can get them all in here and they don't have to worry about putting them in. But you put in the person's name, email address, you choose the server type. If you're using Office 365, you want to pick Exchange Server. If you're using Gmail, you can do that. If you're using still an SMTP, a POP server, then you would choose Others. So that would go there, whichever one you pick, and then depending on what you pick, it puts in the information. So let me see here. So here's for Office 365. Then you can, most of the time for the Exchange server name, you can simply type outlook.office365.com and make sure it's an SSL connection, put in the person's email and the person's email password. And then you click apply to save it, and then you do a save and test. And you want it to come up and say it connected successfully. If it says it failed, then there's some setting in here. Sometimes people have their own special domain here. You might have to find that out. But you can look at your Outlook settings, or you can, sometimes if you look on your phone, because you require the same settings on your phone, and then your email password could be incorrect. But that's another webinar that addresses all of that is one called All Things Email. It'll talk about everything. Okay, so now we talked prefixes, suffixes, all the system settings. Needy is asking me, is there a way to track changes made to accounts? If you can see this audit log, yes. Some of you have this capability, some of you don't, but you can choose here, current session, today, last 2 days, okay? So if you wanted to know what was done in the last week, and then you can pick which user or all users. So I'm the only person using this. So then you can see what the person did and when. Okay, so you can see today I've been in here doing stuff to set up for the session. And then some of the things here, like this contact was edited. If you click on more details, then it'll tell you, see, I just edited Clayton there. So it's telling me. So, and if somebody accidentally deletes something, then you can actually undo the deletion from here. You don't have to call our tech support team. You can undo it from here if they deleted something. So yes, you do have that capability if you see audit log. All right. Okay. Now let me jump to customization, because this is your other big thing in setting up your records. I'm going to go back out here. And I haven't logged out. See, that didn't go back, so let me log out just to make sure all the other stuff I did. Oops, I always do that. Okay. And another thing that's nice with ClaritySoft Live, when you're setting up your users and you are controlling the access that they have, like you said, somebody with an individual profile, and you make some changes to the fields that they can see in the user interface template, or you create a custom profile and assign it to someone, you can log in as that person and see, okay, are they seeing what I want them to see? Okay, and test it. So that makes it really simple. That's why I usually suggest give them a generic password to start with, because then while you're still testing things, you can just keep using that generic password. And then when you launch everybody, they can change it to whatever they want. So that's capable. And then sometimes people completely forget their password, so they do have to come to you. And as the admin user, you can go to users and access users, open their user record and change the password in the user record, save it, and then when they log in, they'll have the new password you just gave them. So that happens often as well. People forget their passwords. So you can do that as the admin user. All right, so what I wanted to look at here is we have our record and we have different fields. So there are basic fields in ClaritySoft when you first start, and then the beauty of it is you can add all the custom fields that you need for your particular business. And each business is a little bit different because each business might need to track different types of data. So then you can start adding your custom fields. And right here, this territory field, this is an already added custom field. That's a drop-down list. And you can add however many you need. You have the ability to add up to 100 text type fields, which include drop-down, date type, 100 date fields, and 100 number fields. And believe me, if you use 300 fields, you're going to make your people crazy trying to fill in all that data. So you want to keep it simple, all right? But you can, like I said before, look at where your data is coming from. What fields of data do you have, either from another CRM or from a spreadsheet or spreadsheets you've been using. And then that determines what you put in here. Now, part of the design process in ClaritySoft is if you use the leads module, and it is optional, you can put custom fields in the leads module and add the same custom fields in accounts, contacts, and opportunities. And when you convert the lead, then the data will flow into the corresponding fields. So your leads module, really the only difference between the leads module and accounts and contacts is that your lead record has both the company name and the contact person name in the same record. And when you convert the lead, it splits it into two separate records. But you have basically the same fields. It's kind of like an account record and a contact record combined together. And you can see here I have a territory field. So that custom field, when I fill this in for the lead, when I convert that lead, this data will transfer into the territory field in the account record. So I just wanted you to see that, because now, how in the world do you add custom fields? You go to Settings, and in Settings, you go to Customization. And under here now, you're going to see all of your modules. So when you go to a module, it expands and it gives you the pieces of information that you can customize. Now in leads, we have custom fields. For each of the modules, you have preferences. You can set up numbering systems for your modules. In leads, you have lead stages that we've put in, certain ones, and then you can change these by opening it up if you want to change it to, discovery or something like that. Then you can save it. So you may change these to what you want them to be. Add additional ones, delete the ones you don't want. Your row action button will let you edit it, delete it, move it up or down, or disable it. Disabling means it'll stay in the database, but it won't show up in the drop-down list anymore. And sometimes that's a safe thing, like if you're using a stage that you don't want to use anymore, don't delete it, because then you might orphan the records that are already in the database with that stage set. Just disable it. It'll maintain the records with that setting, but you won't be able to set any new records to that. So use disable before you use delete, okay? It's just safer. And then if you're not sure, call tech support and say, I want to do this. How should I do it? Okay? So you've got lead stages, you've got lead quality. Again, you may change these to whatever you want, hot, warm, cold, you know, whatever options you currently use. And then custom fields. So in here, I have a bunch of custom fields that are already in here, but notice most of them are disabled because I keep playing with this database. Here's my territory custom field with the drop-down list. So I have all my choices in here. And you can come in anytime after you create something, and I could put in maybe Canada if I wanted to do that. So that will add to the list. So you can edit the list, add to it. You can change the spelling of something. If you delete an option, that can cause problems too. So deleting is somewhat dangerous. So don't delete randomly. Just check it out first. Needy, you would have to talk to your account rep to find out about getting the audit log turned on in your database. Okay. All right. So we're going to add a custom field here. I'm going to add one called product interest because while I'm talking to a lead, I may want to find out what product or products that they are interested in. These are your different data types. Again, you may or may not see all of these depending on the level of ClaritySoft that you have. So I know everybody has at least down to a drop-down multi-select. You might not have some of the ones that are down here. So I want to multi-select because they might be interested in more than one option. And I'm going to make this really simple. Put in standard widgets. And these could be product categories more, you know, it's not going to be your specific product list. It's just, you know, they're interested in this or, you know, a certain type of product, certain type of service, something like that. So you want to keep it fairly generic. And then I'm going to add, while I'm in here, I'm going to copy this. And then I'm going to go to Accounts module, Custom Fields, Add. And I'm going to add a drop-down multi-select. So the name of the field needs to be the same, the type of field needs to be the same, and then I can paste my list. And then I also want to add it in opportunities. Okay, so I've now added the same field in leads, accounts, and opportunities. I could also go into quotes and sales and add it there if I wanted to. So once you put it in leads, it'll travel throughout the database. Now the other one I want to add is in accounts. I want to create a status field. And I want it to be just a single select drop down. And I want this to be a prospect. So I've got three choices here. Again, these can be anything that you use. You know, you use your vocabulary that you're used to using. That's the nice thing about being able to customize this. So I've added these new fields down here, okay, or product interest and status. And so once you add the fields, this is the next step that you're going to do, which is extremely important. Because if I do this, you're all excited, you add your fields, you log out, you log back in. And you open up, let's say we open the account record, and we should see two fields, product interest and status. And we're all excited, we open it up, and whoa, neither one of my fields is anywhere to be found in here. So that's the important step you forgot, is once you add the custom fields, you have to go to what we call the UI or user interface template and put them in the screen layout, okay? So if you're taking notes, make sure you put big stars next to user interface template. So I'm going to go back to my settings, and I'm going to go to customization, and the very first option under here is UI templates. And then on the right-hand side, you see all of the modules. So I'm going to go to the lead one first. It doesn't matter. And then when you click here, you have your profiles. Now, what's nice to be able to do, if you're going to use just the all profile, you can go directly to the all profile and just set it up there. But if you've added some custom profiles, then you might want to start with the base template, and that becomes your master. So right over here is product interest, okay? And this may be different than, let's see what else I've got here. Oh, we're in the lead record, yeah. So we just did product interest for the lead record. So all your available fields are over here in this column that says available fields. And over here is the current layout of your screen. So you can look at these, you can move these anywhere you want. Like if I want, well, maybe I want to put this up here with territory. So I can move these anywhere I want the fields to go and organize them. You also have a secondary tab. If you have put a lot more fields in, then you can move them down onto the secondary tab. So you can drag and drop these anywhere you want them to go. If you don't want to use a field, simply drag it to the left. For example, if I do not work out of the country at all, I can drag country away, although I had a territory called Canada, so probably I need to leave this here. But you can pull these anywhere you want. Maybe I want to put website over here. And you can come in and change this at any time. Another thing I will mention under this field configurations tab is this allows you to choose whether a field's visible or not. But if you drag it to the left into the available fields column, it's also out of view. Your custom fields will be at the bottom of the list in green. So these are all your custom fields. And then this is where you can set a field as required, so that if somebody's adding a new lead, they must put in a company and a contact. Otherwise, why put in the lead in the first place? Okay, you could make it one or the other. And then read-only, you can make a field read-only, like if you're importing some type of data, not necessarily in the leads module, but into another record that is maybe last year's sales that you're bringing in from somewhere else. You could make that a read-only field so they can't change it, okay? So you want to think about this. Don't go crazy on the required, or you'll make your people nuts. So don't, make everything required. No one will fill in anything. And then you can think about whether something's read-only or not. So once you finish that, you click Save to save this to the base template. But now what I want to do is I want to copy what's on my base template to my all, or my individual, or I could just do all of them, you know, do it all at once. And then when I click save, it's now going to copy that layout from my master or base template to my all template. The layout will be the same. So I only have to do it once and then I can copy it too. So that's really nice. So you do this, I'm going to do this quickly because we are rapidly running out of time. Do my contact template. I'm just going to do the all template to start with here. So I guess I didn't add anything here, did I? No, I didn't, so I'm good. I did the account and the opportunity. So here's account. And here's my status. And maybe I want to move my owner over here. And I have my product interest. I'll put here. Okay. So I get to do that. And then again, I'll save it. So I can do all these templates at once, just go from one to the next to make sure all my fields are there. And then after I'm finished, then I will log out and log back in. So here's product interest. It's the only one there. So now I can log out. When you're the admin user, you get very used to logging out and logging back in. Once you get to working with your data and you have your design done, you don't need to do that anymore unless you need to make a change in settings. So now when I open my record, there's my status field, and I can say these guys are an active customer, and the product interest is standard widgets, okay? So, like I said, if you add your custom fields and you log out and log in and then open your record and you don't see the fields, you forgot to go to the user interface template and set that up. So once you do that, then you have your fields. So basically, you just work your way through this. So let me show you here at the end. Where's my leads module? If I take a lead, because some of you may be using leads, some of you may not, you do have statuses up here for leads: new, closed, converted, or converted, yeah. So new, working, closed, and converted. So by default, it'll show you new. So if I took this one here and I want to convert it, first of all, let me go in and set a contact role and a product interest. They're interested in standard widgets. The territory is set. Oh, I'm going to change this to Canada since I added that to the list. Okay, so I've got all of this all set. Everything's filled in. I can do, now here's something you can do. This is a trick to teach your people. If you've got lots of leads in here, if I do a save and close and that lead is at the bottom of the alphabetical list, then they got to go hunt for it to convert it. If you simply click save, it leaves the record open, and then you come up here to this vertical ellipsis button, click on it, and it says convert lead. It's just a little faster if you've got lots of leads than having to go hunt for it again. Okay, so when it's converting, it's going to say I'm going to create this account. I'm creating this contact. It's assigned to this person, but you can assign it to anybody. And then you can create your opportunity at the same time. I click apply, and ClaritySoft will close this record. It disappears from here because it's no longer new. It's now converted. So that one right there. So it automatically changes the status. You don't have to do it. And now when I go to accounts, I would simply look up that one. Oops, AAMAC. Oh, I didn't do that right. AMACC. Okay. AMAC. There we go. Okay. So I have that, and I have the account. I click here. I have the contact for Charlisa. All her data came across, and I have the opportunity. All right. So they're all there. Now, if I open the account record, product interest of standard widgets filled in, I can then choose that they're a prospect now, and then I can assign, I didn't assign the territory in the lead record, so my fault there. So we didn't get it, okay, but I can assign it now. They're in Canada too. Oh no, I did assign it. Oh, you know what? Good for I made a mistake. I didn't add Canada to this list. I only fixed the one. That's why it didn't fill it in. So learn by your mistakes, okay? So I've got that there, and if I save this, then contacts, if I open Charlisa, she's in, well, it's country. Where's territory? Didn't come across either because I didn't fix this one. Contact role was sales though. There's the sales. I did not put product interest in here. Okay, so you can see that product interest did not come into the contact record, which is fine. That's what I wanted. And if I go to the opportunities, we will see territory, again, didn't fix. Product, standard widgets, we didn't have product level. Did I bring product interest? I just did product interest here. So the data does flow across, and you can see wherever you decide to put it is where it goes. All right, so we've gone past our time once again, but let me return to settings and just make sure. Email templates, email signatures. We do have an All Things Email webinar recorded that will help you with figuring out how to set up email templates and setting up your signature. We've done the customization. So each module, you just go down to each module, look at the options that are here, and set the options. Now, one of the things, we have all of this information out on the support portal. If you click on the question mark and go to support portal, then in the search, you can click in here and type in quotations or type in custom fields or whatever you want, and that will expand over here. So you have all the help topics are over here that you can find. And then the videos that I've been talking about are right here, video tutorials. You go, click on go. You click on a little video is going to pop up and start playing right here. And all you need to do is stop it. Whoops. And then go to this tab that says videos. And this will have all of our videos. They're from newest to oldest. So all of the, here's the one on access profiles and user interface templates. I just did last week, so that will go into more detail than what we did today. So use that as your resource. Products and pricing, we didn't really talk about this, but ClaritySoft allows you to bring in a price book, and then you can bring your price book in where you can put in groups or folders, and then you can have item numbers, a name for the product, description, you can put cost, So all this information can be brought in that then people can select when they're creating an opportunity. So all of that is there. Now with Pricebook, we can import it, but we have to use the offline version to import it right now until it's ready for live. So no problem, either talk to, if you're in Quick Start, talk to myself or Linda and we'll help you with that, or you can talk to tech support and they can help you with that. So that can be brought in. So all of those different settings that are there, you just kind of go down and we have these, again, action plans, workflow automation, you may not see necessarily, depending on your level. Web forms are, we can bring in from web forms into leads or into the support module. So someone can enter a data on your lead on a web form on your website, and that can be connected to leads to bring in the information. And then integrations here, this is for setting up, you can integrate your calendars here, your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar. So that's another important one for most of you to be able to go there and set that up and make the connection. All right. Looks like we don't have any other questions, but let me go back here and just kind of finish up for the day. First of all, thanks for attending. Hopefully you got some good ideas, learned some things that you might want to go back to your database and polish up or add to it. And if you need help or if you have any questions, especially if you're trying to figure out whether you should delete something or not, don't do it until you ask. And you can call tech support at 888-838-7487 extension 2, or email them at support@claritysoft.com, or talk to Linda or myself. And then again, new topics, ideas, critiques, send them and we'll be happy to incorporate them. Thank you. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll talk to you for next week's webinar.